All right, let's talk about a huge paradox in enterprise tech. We've got this incredibly powerful technology, blockchain, but for years, it's been failing in the real world. So today, we're going to break down why that is and how a concept called the Supernode is finally making it click for business.
So here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll unpack the massive problem that's been holding things back. Then, we'll introduce the Supernode solution. After that, we'll look under the hood at how a platform like SettleMint makes it work, check out some real-world results, and then wrap up with a pretty big idea, the invisible revolution.
Okay, let's get right into it. The promise of blockchain is, it's immense. We're talking about things like unbreakable transparency, instant payments, and totally new kinds of digital assets. But for most companies that have tried it, the reality has just been a long story of frustration and failure. So this is the big question we have to ask. Why is it that a staggering 85% of corporate blockchain projects just fizzle out? They never leave the pilot phase. That number is huge, and it tells you that something is fundamentally wrong with how companies are approaching this. Just let that number sink in. 85%. The folks who started SettleMint, they saw this firsthand in the banking world, and they realized the issue wasn't with blockchain itself. The technology was fine. The problem was the mind-bending complexity of trying to stitch it into all the systems that businesses already use. And this is the perfect way to think about it. Imagine you invent a revolutionary new light bulb. Amazing. But to use it, you first have to build your own power plant, your own substations, and run all the wiring to your house. That's exactly what building a blockchain app has felt like. Companies were spending all their time and money on the plumbing, not on actually using the light bulb. So, if the problem is the plumbing, what's the solution? Well, you get a master plumber. In the blockchain world, that master plumber is what we call a supernode. See, every company in a network runs a node. It's just a computer with a copy of the ledger. Getting those all set up and talking to each other is the hard part. The supernode is basically an orchestration layer that comes in and handles all that messy infrastructure for you. So what exactly is a supernode? Well, the idea was pioneered by projects like Hyperledger Firefly, and it's essentially a complete pre-built technology stack. It's like a single front door that handles everything: digital assets, data, transactions, and hides all the complexity behind it so your developers don't have to deal with it. Now, this quote, this is really the key to understanding why the supernode is so important. It turns out that 90% of the work in building a real-world production-ready app has absolutely nothing to do with blockchain code. It's all the other stuff: the APIs, the databases, the user logins. The supernode is designed to handle that 90% right out of the box. Okay, so that's the concept. Now let's pop the hood and see how a platform like SettleMint actually brings this supernode idea to life. It all comes down to a really smart three-layer architecture. Okay, so layer one is the infrastructure layer. This is the foundation. It automatically sets up and manages all the blockchain nodes for you, so you don't need a whole team of hyper-specialized engineers. Then you've got the middleware and API layer. This is the brain of the operation. It takes all those complicated smart contract functions and turns them into simple, standard web APIs that any developer can understand. And third, you have the integration layer. This is where the magic really happens. It's a low-code studio that lets you visually connect the blockchain to the systems you already use, like SAP or Salesforce. And that low-code part is a total game changer for business. Instead of writing tons of custom code, you're just dragging and dropping. Need to tell Salesforce something happened on the blockchain? Yep, there's a connector for that. With over 4,000 of these ready to go, the result is an 85% faster development cycle and 75% cut in integration costs. I mean, those numbers are just massive. Okay, theory is great, but let's look at what this actually means in the real world. We're going to check out two incredible examples that show how this isn't just a diagram on a slide, it's something that fundamentally changes how companies do business. First up, the huge global retailer Carrefour. Their goal was to give customers total transparency about where their food comes from. Using SettleMint, they built a system where at every single step of the journey, data gets logged on the blockchain, from the farm to the processor, to the distributor, all the way to the shelf in the store. So now a customer can just walk into a store, scan a QR code on a package of chicken, and instantly see its entire life story. And here's the kicker. The core of this application was built and tested in a matter of days, not months or years. That's the power of having all that complex plumbing handled for you. All right, now let's jump from the grocery aisle to the world of high finance. Standard Chartered Bank had a problem that cost the industry billions. It's called trapped liquidity. That's basically money that's just stuck in transit for days during those slow, clunky, and expensive international payments.
The results of their transformation are just staggering. Using SettleMint's platform, they could move value almost instantly. Just look at these numbers. Settlement time went from 3 to 5 times days down to seconds. Manual compliance work, costs slashed by 70%. And look at transaction costs. On an average property deal, it drops from $50,000 to $5,000. That's a tenfold improvement.
Let's just hammer this point home because it's so important in finance. The speed of settlement, or what they call settlement velocity, is the whole ballgame. We're not talking about a little bit faster. We're talking about a fundamental leap from a process that takes days to one that happens in the blink of an eye. So when you put it all together, the value is just crystal clear. You're getting to market 6 times faster. You're cutting development costs by 80%. You're getting huge efficiency gains everywhere. This is what happens when you stop worrying about the plumbing and start focusing on the business. Okay, so let's zoom all the way out and think about the big picture here. What this is all leading to is something we can call the invisible revolution. The end goal for a platform like this, a blockchain platform as a service, is to make the technology itself just disappear. It becomes so deeply and seamlessly integrated that you only feel the benefits. Think about it. When you tap your credit card, you don't think about the global financial networks making it work, right? It just works. That's the future for blockchain. You'll just scan that chicken, trust the information, and never once have to think about the tech making it possible. And that's really the core takeaway. When you don't have to build the power station yourself, you can stop being an electrical engineer and start inventing all the amazing things you can do with that electricity. The focus shifts completely away from managing complex tech and toward creating actual business value. Which brings us to our final question. The Supernode basically makes the how of blockchain an afterthought. It just fades into the background. So the real question for the future isn't about the tech anymore. It's about imagination. As blockchain becomes invisible, what are the huge, unsolvable problems that we're finally going to tackle next?